Walkie time. So here's a story. Someone left the gate open. Here's a story from long ago. One day, back when I was in the military, I was in the National Guard, and I was minding my own business one day, and the Lord spoke to me, and He said, stop house hunting. I was young and single, had a nice job, and I was looking to buy my first house, and I was very excited for it. It's kind of, I thought at the time, it felt like kind of an apex moment in life where, you know, finally on my own, out of poverty and ready to go in life. And I had a real estate agent, looked at a couple houses, was about to sign a contract on one, and God said, stop looking for houses. I was like, what? He said, you're getting deployed. Well, huh? I said, okay, and that was it, right? And I had no doubt. Like, it was just super clear. The voice was clear. It was such a small thing, and this is something I want to keep hammering home. I think, you know, I talk about visions and dreams and voices and visits and all these things, but I tell you this, these things are all real, and they're all available for people, but one big old reason they don't happen for more folks is because people wouldn't take them seriously and they'd ignore them. And they just make excuses to diminish the validity of what had happened. Like, when I hear a voice, I stop, I write down what the heck I was told, I go and do it. When the very first prayer I ever offered to God, I'm not going to say like I fully expected Him to answer me. I guess I did. I think that'd be true. But, you know, I didn't have mighty confidence that God, I prayed because I wanted to know if God existed, not because I knew He did. I just figured I was far enough in my life that I couldn't leave this one a question mark anymore. But one thing that was absolutely true is I was ready to believe and obey anything He said if He was real. So I'm not saying from that moment I was perfectly obedient. I absolutely was not. I had to learn a lot of things, and I have to learn even more now. So much more to learn. But I'm saying that it's so easy to take things lightly, and I think that's a propensity of mankind that's far underestimated. So, if you were to stand in my shoes and have the experiences I did early on, I think you would just dismiss them and do nothing and pretend it didn't happen, and then you wouldn't get any more. Anyway, and if you want to know why you're not getting those, if you're in that boat, there you go. Or if you want to know how you can get more, there you go. Be willing to do whatever He tells you, and don't impose crazy degrees of certainty before you're willing to act, which is exactly what this video is about. Anyway, so back to the story. So I said, okay, and that's what it was. So I called up my real estate agent immediately, and I said, hey, I'm not going to be getting a house. And she thought I was pulling a fast one on her because you signed a contract says you're not going to go with another agent. She's like, well, you know, you signed and said. I said, no, I'm not getting another agent. I'm just not going to buy a house. And she said, she was really pushy. She's like, why? And I said, oh, because I'm getting deployed. And she's like, oh, okay, no big deal. And she didn't ask how I knew that. She just assumed that I had been told in the normal ways. I always say God has a sense of humor, so I'm smiling because this is one example. I think it's hilarious. So then my company commander, a really good guy, he calls me up and he says, this was like a day later. I think I had 24 hours lead time from the Lord. And he says, hey, I'm not really supposed to tell anybody yet, but I was second in command in this unit. I was his executive officer. And he said, I'm not supposed to tell anybody yet, but I just want to make sure you knew, because we're getting deployed. And I said, yeah, actually, I have heard. And he's like, oh, okay, good. And he also didn't ask how. So that was some comic relief in what was honestly a pretty stressful situation. So anyway, so that word came out, and I was so torn about this at the time. The particular situation at hand, I had serious moral misgivings about going and participating in a military action that I did not believe was justified. And my biggest concern with that was not any danger to me or the dilemma of choosing to take someone else's life for something you don't believe in, or give your own so that doesn't happen, but for an equally dumb reason. Nor was the issue any issue of courage. I have never struggled with that. But I shouldn't say never. That's not something that has typically been a problem for me. But the issue was I had serious issues issuing orders to people to do things that I didn't believe in. And I really didn't want to have to write letters to these people's significant others in the event that something happened to them, trying to justify that. So I prayed like a madman, and in very short order, I realized that actually, through circumstances that are going to make this even longer, so I'll skip them. I had moved to that place, but I wasn't officially in the Guard. My paperwork had not been transferred, even though I was really trying to get it transferred because there's a pay situation. Anyway, it wasn't. I wasn't the person that had to sign the papers, and the person who had to sign them wasn't doing their job for a very long time. So I realized that I could volunteer to go with this unit, but I was not legally assigned to go yet. And I had the option of moving. All this happened very quickly. This was like a day, 24 hours. And I was praying, and I said, Lord, I'm not a coward. I care very much about these people that are in this unit I'm serving with. I want to help them. I want to be with them. And this is why I signed up for. And even though I don't agree with the particulars, I think this is a weaselly thing. If I were to move, I'm not sure about that. I don't know that would be a good thing to do. And I was racked about this. And I expected the Lord to say, just do it because it's the right thing. And okay, cool, or something. I don't know what I was expecting, honestly, but I thought he would just give me the answer, right? And he spoke to me, and this is what he said. He said, you don't realize this, but this choice is not just about going. He said, you can go, or you cannot go, and the choice is before you. But realize that if you go, you will not have a family. Your choice is you either don't go and have a family, or you go and you will not have a family in this life. And I was like, and he said, the choice is before you. And I mean, it was so clear what I needed to do, because I could see that it would be better to have a family. I thought about it and I said, I think I'm a good soldier and everything, but is anything going to be different for these guys with me not going? Probably not. I don't think anything's going to be left undone. But if I don't have a family, that is something that individually I am going to have an impact on that other people can't do for what's my family. That's me. So, no joke, 24 hours ish. This might have been 2 days. It was a lot of years ago, but I mean, it was like a day. I called my boss. I may have met with him face to face, but I think because of the timeline, I called him and I said, look, I got to move across the country like right now. So, because I didn't know when the paperwork was going to hit, maybe it would have been months, because it had been months, but it could have hit any minute and then I'd be on the hook, right? I knew what I needed to do. So I called my boss and I said, look, I got to move now to another state. So they had like this part of the company that was national, is like a traveling group, not just in the office where I was locally. And he said, well, no big deal. We have this, like, where you're going, there's this other part of the company you could work for. I'll make some calls. We'll get you transferred. You're great. We want to keep you. It's not a big deal. He was so accommodating about it, which was unbelievable to me. There's no notice for this. And he's a good guy. But so I was like, cool. I told my roommate, hey, man, I'm out. And I packed up everything that could fit in my little car, and I started driving out west. Didn't have a place to live. I didn't have a job. But God said, look, the path is before you, and here you go. And I was like, okay. Started driving down the road. I had to leave behind a whole bunch of stuff that didn't fit my car, and much to my roommate's chagrin. Anyways, so okay, well, the story's over, right? And obviously it's made, I cannot tell you, hold on, a truck's coming. I can't tell you what kind of difference it's made in my life, that choice. Of course, I can't tell you completely because I don't have both sides of the story to tell you how it would have gone the other way, but I can tell you I'm pretty confident it wouldn't have been good. So, or however good it would have been, it wouldn't have been the best. And that is the point, is God promises to show us what's better, but he doesn't promise that we're going to know at the time of the decision just by how much. That's like, this is what I want to underline and highlight and stomp about. You got to understand that he gives us the tools to know among options which is the best. But that there's no guarantee that we'll see all the options, because that takes, among other things, a lot of openness on our part. And that's a big deal. And it's sort of its own topic. But I can tell you that a lot of the divergent outcomes in life can be explained by people who do a better job at honestly enumerating and discovering available options. That's a big deal. The other big deal is correctly figuring the value of each of those options, the cost and benefit. And that's kind of the problem, is that value is not easily discovered. And it's not just you got it right or you got it wrong. There are shades here, and it takes a while to figure it all out. Sometimes it takes a really long while. Many times it's not till years and years and years after the decision that you really grasp the full scope of what was before you, and you had no idea how important it was. So to obtain the most of what the Lord wants to give us, we really have to open our eyes to the full scope of options available to us and really work at seeing which one is best, and then faithfully following that opportunity, even when it requires crazy, extreme things, because he works through faith. And faith is about our desires and the reasons for what we want and the actions that we take to bring it to pass. So huge outcomes swing on decisions that seem in the moment that they're not too different than the other options, but it is obvious that they're better, but we really don't know by how much until you go down the road, you gain the experience and wisdom. So just to bring a little more attention to the subtlety between available options, I think if I had to characterize the biggest mistake that's most often made, that's most detrimental in amongst these themes, it would be, number one would be assuming that something that's only a little worse is actually only a little worse. So I think we get into huge trouble when we say, well, it's only a little worse than the best thing I can think of. That won't hurt too bad because it sure feels a lot better to go this direction. It's sure a lot easier to do this one than the other one. And that's really where you get hung up, because I think if you find anyone who's had an abundant life so far and you ask them to honestly assess their path through it, I think that all of us would say it's been like 98% of the value in my life has come from decisions that were long shots, that had a very low probability of working out, that were weird, that no one else was doing, and yet that is what describes the absolute majority of the value in my present life, are those long shot decisions. And that's not to say that they weren't the most rational thing to do. It's that the most rational thing to do will from time to time be really hard, be a very low probability of success, and take immense and sometimes sudden effort. Sometimes it's immense effort over a long time, and sometimes it's just a little effort over a really long time, like actually studying your scriptures every day, which in the moment for some people who haven't fallen in love with that yet can feel like an immense investment of time. But it's really nothing in the scheme of things for the benefit it provides. Anyway, that's the number one way I think people slip up. Number two way is in not including all of the options that you actually have the ability to perceive. So I don't really know anybody who would have been open to what I did in the story I shared. They exist, I'm sure, but these people are not abundant, right? Because people don't open their minds to possibilities that are outside of the norm. They just look around at what everyone else is doing and say like, oh, well, yeah, that's the menu, I'll pick from this. I mean, open your eyes to what the average person's life is. It's terrible. Do you really want that? And so if you're honest, you have to admit that what you're actually saying is, I expect to be able to do what everyone does, and I fully expect a much better outcome than what everyone else gets by doing the same thing I'm doing. And that is absolutely ridiculous. It's worse than ridiculous. It's absurd. So be honest about the options and be honest about where they're going and value. These are all big themes, but I thought I could sort of slice off a tiny bit of this and stick it into a 20-minute video. So there you go. Be aware of the options you have. Be honest in assessing their value, and look out for that huge trap of this is only a little worse. Go for what is best every single time. And if you stack up enough of those contiguously, you'll be absolutely shocked where it takes you in life and who you become through doing that.